you have no doubt heard my name, and although I assure you that it was never my intention to become so well known, people would remember my name 100 or so years following my death, I am greatly flattered nonetheless. But, as would be the case with a great many so-called famous folk, I reckon quite a few stories have been allowed to stand wherein the truth is, how shall I say this, that truth is somewhat strained. I feel in the interest of accuracy, someone should set the record straight, and I feel the burden of that responsibility. My name is Wyatt Barry Stapp Earp, and this is the truth. As I tell this story, know full well that I had no actual intention to live nearly 80 years. In fact, as I approach my birthday, I'm told that I long ago exceeded what had been expected for a man born in the year of our Lord, 1848. A physician who I respect just recently informed me that most men born in that era were expected to live only about 40 years. I cannot explain my longevity other than to state that I have been fortunate. Considering my different professions, particularly in law enforcement, many men who earned a living in such a way had their lives cut short due to gunplay. Anyway, here I am. As far as setting the record straight on my life and times, I suppose that I should begin at the beginning. I was born on March 19, 1848, in Illinois. I was the fourth child of Nicholas and his second wife, a woman named Virginia Ann Cooksey. My father told me I had been named in honor of his commanding officer during the time of the Mexican-American War. Anyway, he fathered a total of 8 children with my mother. When I was very young, my family undertook a journey with about 100 others to relocate to California, where supposedly great wealth and opportunity awaited. He had intended to purchase a farm there. Along the way, my sister Martha became ill, and she died. My parents cut the journey short and established themselves near Pella, Iowa. This is where my last sibling was born. Around 1861, with the war breaking out, my older brothers joined the Union Army. My father became a recruiter and trainer, so that left me and 2 younger brothers to tend to the family farm. Being just 13, and although too young to enlist, I nevertheless ran away several times in an attempt to join the Army, unsuccessfully. As the war came toward an end, Father organized a wagon train and resumed what had been the original plan, namely moving to California. Around 1866 or so, I found work as a driver for a stagecoach line, and for 2 years I helped transporting cargo all through California, Nevada, and Utah. At the tender age of 16, I learned much about gambling and prize fighting, 2 endeavors which remained a part of me for many years. For good or for bad, I'm afraid. Early on, I also earned a fine reputation as a boxing referee. As a young man, I rejoined the family as they moved once again, this time to Lamar, Missouri. It was here my father became a local constable. When he became Justice of the Peace, I assumed his former role as constable. Now, there's much talk and romance about gunfighting in the so-called Old West. I clearly recall my very first such fight. I was a relatively young man, barely 20, when a man named Tom Pinard mocked me. He called me a coward. I took offense, and we ended up on the street. He drew a gun, but I prevailed. I hit him in his right hip. Not long after that, in 1869, after a courtship, I married Urilla Sutherland, a girl from a prominent family. Although we bought a piece of land and intended to start our family, Urilla developed the typhoid fever, and she died. I suppose it hit me hard, that death, because I developed some legal problems and I was accused of misappropriating town funds. I'm not proud to state that I was arrested for stealing a horse. Before I would appear for a hearing on the matter, I broke from the jail and headed for Peoria. By the time I had arrived in Peoria, it had become a wide-open place. The community leaders mostly ignored illegal alcohol use, gambling, prostitution, and other vices. My bad fortune continued as my brother Morgan and I were arrested in a brothel and charged for that offense. My continued connection to the business of prostitution followed in this period of the early part of the 1870s. At this point, my reputation was that of a contemptible loafer. Around 1874, I moved to the town of Wichita, where I met up with my brother James. Here, he ran a brothel, and I found work as a bouncer or an enforcer. Wichita was a railroad terminal and a destination for cattle drives from Texas. The town would fill with drunken, armed cowboys celebrating the end of their long journey when the cattle drive arrived, and lawmen were kept busy. Most drovers arrived in town in June and completed shipping by early fall. At this point, with authorities looking for law enforcers, I was hired by the marshal's office for a princely sum of $100 a month. I left Wichita when I was accused of using the office to hire my brothers. But by that time, Dodge City, Kansas had become the major terminal for the cattle drives from Texas Territory. I was appointed assistant marshal, and Mattie Blaylock became my common law wife. It was here at this time that I became acquainted with Bat Masterson. By 1879, my brother Virgil had set himself up as town constable in Prescott, Arizona. He wrote me about plentiful opportunities there due to silver mining. I saw this as a genuine opportunity and took it. In Tombstone, my brother and I had a territory, including the entirety of the southeastern Arizona Territory. Here, I had many options, including running a stage or as a professional gambler, had I chosen. By this time, Doc Holliday joined us with an enormous sum of $40,000, mostly from gambling winnings. In 1880, Army Captain Hurst asked that I assist in tracking some outlaw cowboys who had stolen army mules from Fort Rucker. I was joined by my brothers Virgil and Morgan on this duty, and we tracked them successfully to a ranch. The end result of this mission would lead directly to the incident most people associate to me and my brothers. I will finish my story soon, so stay tuned.